What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Week 15 post-game Ravens Jaguars Real Talk Ravens podcast. I know we are a day late filming on Tuesday, but we had Mike here who was braving the elements and traveled down to Jacksonville from North Carolina and back. And, we wanted to make sure he was here to really just give his outtake on everything that occurred that night.
Right. It was a crazy experience. And I'll be honest, I really like Jacksonville Stadium. I really like their stadium. And for the most part, I like their fan base. We'll get into it later. There were a couple crazies, but I feel like every fan base has those guys, that takes it a bit too far.
Absolutely. Jacksonville, from my just experiences through the last time I was in Jacksonville, I stopped to get something to eat on the way down to Orlando. And I stopped at a Chipotle and I get out. We were sitting outside right off the highway, and I see a road rage incident where a guy gets out of his big truck, rears in front of another car, cuts him off, and gets out of his car in the middle of incoming traffic and starts beating on his window, throws a bag of McDonald's at the windshield, and then gets back into his truck. And then the guy that he threw the bag of McDonald's at follows him, racing him around. It was crazy.
Those are things you'll only see in Florida or California. Like, literally. It's we were going to go get breakfast the next morning before we left, and we went to a little Paris breakfast restaurant. It was called Le Petit Paris, so not Paris, France, but you know what I mean. Anyway, and there was just this woman in a bikini in the middle, a elderly woman in a bikini in the middle of the road, just kind of she wasn't panhandling, but she was also she was kind of lurking, she wanted to panhandle, but she didn't have a sign. But also she was sketchy. I hope she's okay, but at the same time.
Well, so we obviously came out with a big primetime win. It was Week 15, so we're now 11-3. Still holding on to that number one seed in the AFC. The score was 23-7, but it was 10-7 going into the fourth quarter, so it was much closer than the final score actually looks like. Biggest news was some just bad news was Keaton Mitchell. We're going to lose him for the rest of the year with an ACL injury is what it sounds like.
I think we got lucky with how severe the injury was. It doesn't seem like it was more than just the ACL from what I've heard.
Which is good, because at first, any of you watched the replay, it was really gruesome, and definitely at first looked like it was multiple ligaments, not just the ACL. So
what was the tackle? Because from where I was kind of diagonal across the stadium from it. So I couldn't quite see if it was a hip drop or if he just got his foot or what it was. But I saw him buckle. I saw his leg buckle, and everyone knew immediately.
It looked like he broke a tackle, and then he was kind of hopping through the tackle, and then when he came to land, he landed down on that one leg, and it just buckled, like you said. It bent the wrong direction, just hyperextended. I was hoping at first it was just a regular hyperextension, but it hyperextended the other way. So
you saw in the stadium, they got him off. He hopped off immediately. The blue tent was open for a minute, and then he just got carted off.
I was surprised that they didn't cart him off from the field.
Yeah, I was too. I was a little relieved when he hopped off. I was like, okay, maybe it's not as bad as it looked from up here. But no.
Because they didn't even show it on the broadcast, the replay, but they did. I saw it after the game, I saw it on social media and stuff, and it was terrible.
I haven't looked because I don't.
You don't want to. But other injury news: Marcus Williams also came out of the game with a groin injury, which
luckily day to day.
Yeah, they say it's only a day-to-day, but I could very well see him missing this next game because it didn't look good from the replay that they showed.
He was hurt on the tackle at the end of the first half, right, where he stopped.
It was the very end of the first half.
Yeah, that last play before they tried to spike the ball.
Yep, the player that he was tackling landed right on the inside of his knee and opened it all the way past that open gate, and it did not look very good.
Dude, I can't go to any more Ravens games because every time I do, Marcus Williams gets hurt and we lose a running back for the rest of the freaking year.
Yeah, so Mike's been to Houston game and now the Jacksonville game, so we've lost Marcus Williams both games for extended period. Well, we don't know about this one for him.
At least the rest of the game.
J.K. Dobbins in Houston, Keaton Mitchell in Jacksonville, both the season enders.
Both AFC South.
And then the other guy that got hurt, who's a mainstay on the injury report, is Ronnie Stanley for concussion protocol. But they say, I think it was one of those ones where they called in, the referee either called in or someone from up from the booth said he had to go get checked out because of the way he hit a guy helmet to helmet.
Yeah.
Honestly, could have been a penalty on him from the replay they showed. And it's just going back to the fact he can't get low enough right now with his knee injury and all that stuff going on. So,
yeah, as scary as our offensive line looked, I do think Patrick McCarty should finish out the year so that Ronnie Stanley is just good for the playoffs. Like, look, I've done all the scenarios. We could end up being the 5th seed and the Browns being the 1st seed. Like, it could be bad, but I would rather be in the playoffs healthy because I feel like we're a team that could beat anyone in this AFC right now.
Yeah,
be the number 1 seed and be beat up, you know?
Definitely. The only thing that really worries me is this week, Monday night, we play San Francisco. They're going to have their full arsenal back.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
So, I'm saying San Francisco game with their looks like they're getting all their D linemen back with Armstead and whoever else, and they're going to be a tough defense to block.
I just pray that Lamar Jackson can stay healthy because it's at this point, it's like they probably could have had double-digit sacks at this Jags game if it wasn't for Lamar's like escapability.
Yeah, definitely. But let's go ahead and get into the offense. So offensively, passing game to me took a step back, which I wasn't expecting based off the numbers. They had a weak pass defense, and then they had 2 of their starting secondary guys out. I was expecting us to really just have a big passing game, but it just seemed like nobody got open for Lamar. Even the times that he had time to throw it, he'd be sitting back there and nobody was open.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think that was all on us. Being at the game, it just really seemed like they did a good job preparing for the Ravens passing game. They've been torched the last couple of weeks, so eventually you're going to make some adjustments. I will say I was very, very, very impressed with the run game. The run game, which kind of started slow, it came to life. Obviously, Keaton Mitchell really kind of brought that fire, and it's gonna be difficult to replace him, but I think Justice Hill can do it. The only thing that I've ever had an issue with Justice Hill this year is like the gas, like the fumbles and stuff. If he can hold on to the ball, he can be just as effective. Obviously, like he's not as fast and bursty, but he's still a quick guy, and he can still get into the open space and do those outside runs, especially and after in the pass game. So I'm not necessarily worried about replacing him as long as we can just keep the turnovers down,
Yeah, I think the biggest difference is just that Keaton Mitchell has that big playability with his long speed. Justice Hill is fast, or he's quick, but he doesn't have that same long speed. So, like, what could be a 50-yard play for Keaton Mitchell would probably be like a 20-yard play for Justice Hill. So that's really the biggest difference between them. And that's something that, his definitely would have helped. And it's definitely, Justice Hill, he's going to be he'll be completely fine. I will say he does. I will say from the difference that he's better at Keaton Mitchell at is actually in his pass protection. So when it comes to blocking for Lamar, that's a good thing for him.
Now remember also, Melvin Gordon's been solid for us this year when he's played.
He's only played in 3 games, and it's been a while. So I'm curious to see how they ease him back in.
So he's got 3 games before the playoffs to kind of get back into the swing of things, 3 full games against 3 tough defenses.
We also signed today Jake Funk from University of Maryland to our practice squad to replace his practice squad spot at running back. So maybe we'll see him. I know he actually has a little bit of juice to him too, so that'll be interesting to see.
How interesting would that be if we replaced one undrafted rookie with another and they just both did the same thing?
You know who I was actually thinking that would be a good signing would be trying to bring back Tyler Beatty.
Yeah, I'd like that. Isn't he on Denver, though?
He's either on their practice squad or he's a free agent.
Okay. Yeah, I could see it.
Just because he's got that speed, too. And he did well when he was with the Broncos last year. He actually had a few games that he played that were he looked pretty good.
It's never going to happen, but we could always try and do something funky with Malik Cunningham too.
Yeah, maybe like some outside stuff. I don't see him in between the tackles doing anything.
No, definitely not on the inside. But that's why we have Gus, you know. That's why we have Gus and Melvin, to be honest. So
I think we'll be okay, definitely, like you said. It's just big playability.
Look, if we've proved anything with losing Mark Andrews is that we've always got another guy up. And we've been doing this for the last 3 years. Unfortunate that all these injuries are happening at the end of the year. But let's be honest, we're still one of the healthiest teams in the AFC. There is only one team in the AFC that scares me right now, and that's Buffalo. And they're not even fully healthy either. So I'd say it just depends on where that game is played. And right now we're the 1 seed. So
yeah,
I think offensively, we did have a kind of weak game offensively. I know everyone's concerned, we didn't look great, we're still inconsistent. But let's be honest, we ran the ball down their throat. No, we didn't finish in the red zone a lot, which was probably my biggest concern. But we still put points on the board pretty much every time we got the ball. We were in a position where we were 2 scores ahead with like 5 minutes left in the game. I mean, what more can you ask for?
I think my biggest gripe with the offensive game plan was the fact that Zay Flowers only had 1 target.
Yeah.
Odell Beckham only had a couple too, and those should be our 2 leading targets. I don't know if they were trying to really make sure those 2 were covered up, but it just seemed like we didn't really have too much of an attempt to get them. We need to be more creative finding ways to get them the ball because they're too deadly of playmakers to not touch the ball.
They did a good job covering us. Lamar had to take the ball into his own hands quite a bit, and it worked this time, and it normally works, but it doesn't always work. So, it's just be more creative, like you said. Just maybe call something a little different. I don't know.
It seemed like we did a lot better of a job versus the Rams with motioning, and it didn't seem like we really did a lot of that versus Jacksonville. I don't know. I mean,
maybe we
obviously it's game plan specific and all that stuff, but I mean, we at the end of the day didn't get our playmakers the ball enough, and that's something that I know definitely is hard on a defense with the motions.
Yeah. I will say though, I mean, besides that bad interception that Lamar threw, which I really just think he didn't see the guy.
He baited him.
Yeah. Lamar probably had one of his better games as a Raven, not necessarily statistically, but just like it kind of reminds me of that Colts game we played. Even though he didn't have to come back this time, he just kind of like took charge and led us to a win, which is good to see because, he hasn't had to do that too much this year, but he's still got it in him to do it when he has it,
And I love hearing the fact that it sounds like he's got a different mentality this year as a leader. That all the guys in the, Marlon Humphrey got interviewed after the game, and he said he's holding Marlon Humphrey accountable, telling him he needs to play better. He's not afraid to talk up and talk to these veterans even. And, he knows, what we need to do to get to that level. Even though he hasn't been there, he knows what it takes. So they're saying he's the last guy in the building. He's the first guy there. That's the type of mentality you need from that player who's getting the most money on the team. Like that's why he's getting that. And I'm just very glad that our contract actually is paying off for us, unlike the Flacco one.
We could be 13-1 right now, everyone says. I think what really, really sets us apart from the rest of the AFC, at least, because the NFC, the 49ers feel the same as the Ravens. We are just so laser focused. We have such a take it a game at a time, take it a play at a time, a drive at a time mentality. We're going to do whatever it takes to win a game, and that's all that matters at the end of the day. And we're winning, and it bugs us, and you can see that it bugs us when it doesn't succeed and we drop a game like to the Colts or the Browns or something. And then we kind of correct those mistakes. And sometimes they come back. That's when we get lazy. But sometimes we'll correct mid-game and we'll win, kind of like this game. Because I'll be completely honest, the momentum felt like it completely shifted after that long touchdown for the Jaguars.
And then I think we got it back on the big play to Isaiah Likely where he freaking head topped the dude.
I thought that was an interception.
Oh yeah, so did I.
Yeah.
It was a very dumb throw, but Isaiah made it happen.
Right. That was 90% Isaiah, 10% Lamar.
Yeah, Lamar just gave him a chance, and Isaiah made the play, which at the end of the day, that's all you can really ask for as a receiver.
Now, the escape before the throw was brilliant.
Yeah.
I thought he got sacked. I was like, oh, my God. But
They
everyone was already cheering around me, and then they're like, oh, what? Because Lamar was still running.
They actually showed the replay, though, and he had a much easier pass to Rashad Bateman for a touchdown on the scramble. That was actually on his side of the field, and
Really?
nobody was around him on the scramble. If he would have just looked in front of him instead of looking back across the field, he would have had an easy touchdown.
Oh, yeah.
But it worked out.
It did.
Isaiah Likely, to me, was a huge X factor in this game that I think he kind of just took that next step in his maturation with Lamar and their relationship.
Yeah, I think Lamar's finding that he can trust him more, and that play just proves that because he wouldn't have thrown that if he didn't trust him.
Yep, that and then the first drive where he was able to get kind of in sync with Lamar, knowing where he wanted him to go, and he tossed it right over the DB's head and just placed it perfectly in his hands, and he reached up and grabbed it and got like a good 15-yard gain out of it.
Yeah.
There were a few times like that where when he was scrambling around, they were just on the same page, and that's only going to keep getting better and better. And I can really see him being that number one guy, just like Mark Andrews was for him as that security blanket. So
I think my closing offensive statement would be that our offensive line needs to play better, and we need to be a little more creative with getting our receivers open. But we're headed in the right direction, and I can't wait to see what we try and do against San Francisco. Although it might not be pretty, we'll at least get to see what our plan would be against a defense like that.
One more take that I will say that I'll finish off with for offense is we need to make sure offensive play calling with Monken, we need to take what the defense gives us. I feel like early on in the game we were trying to pass it too much instead of really run the ball on them, and that kind of played into their hand because they were kind of selling out for the pass instead of really playing for the run. And I feel like if we would have done that, it would have helped the pass game a little bit more, and you could see that happen in the second half.
Yeah, definitely.
We just got to make sure we don't get into a thing where we throw the ball 5 times in a row. We need to be able to sprinkle in the run. It should be more of like a 60-40 pass to run ratio, I feel like.
Definitely.
All right, let's go ahead and get into defense.
The defense had one of its strangely better games. Early on, the Jaguars were really moving the ball against us pretty well, and it was a lot of self-inflicted wounds that kept them from keeping that game close. So we really did get lucky in the first half. They left – everyone's saying 9. They would have scored a touchdown if they had another play there.
Minimum 12 points, I think, right. Minimum.
So they left 12 at least on the board. I'd say probably 14 on the board because they would have gone for 2 and probably gotten it in the first half. So thank you, Jacksonville, for gifting us that.
I will say, this is the first time we've had a kicker, or not the first kicker. I think before this game, opposing kickers were like 28 out of 29 against us.
Yeah.
In field goals. This week, we forced him into some longer ones. I think one was a 50, one was a 55, and he missed both.
It was funny. It was cracking me up. There was a Ravens fan in front of me and a Jaguars fan behind me during the game. And when we kicked our first field goal, the Jags fan was talking a bunch of trash. He was saying that like Justin Tucker's an all-time great, but this year he sucks. And the old man in front of me the older guy in front of me was just saying like, yeah, well, you know what? He'll make this. He made it. And then afterwards, just the whole game, he was mocking the kicker for the Jaguars. He was like, okay, 10, I guess 10 needs another chance. And like to the Jags fan behind us, and it was pretty funny.
That's funny. Yeah, I mean, I will say one player that I think really improved from last week to this week was Marlon Humphrey. He played a lot better. I think, we didn't really get a lot of pressure on Trevor Lawrence, but we did when we needed to. Justin Madubuike.
It was
another sack, NFL record, 11 straight games with a sack.
Or at least a partial sack.
Yeah, at least a half a sack. And then who was the other one? Someone else got a sack.
Well, he got a strip sack too.
Okay.
No, he got whatever that almost intentional grounding, or that intentional grounding that was almost a sack. And then who else was it? Yeah, I know someone else did get a sack.
Was it Kyle Van Noy maybe?
Might have been. I can't remember.
Yeah, I can't really.
I remember the play. I just don't
Yeah, like you said, Jacksonville really just imploded once they crossed the 50-yard line. It seemed like they had 2 missed field goals. They had the squander of the time at the end of the first half where they should have just kicked the field goal instead of throwing a ball for 2 yards inbounds with no timeouts. That was really bad. You don't expect that out of a Doug Marrone team.
Doug Peterson.
That's what I mean. Peterson, Jacksonville freaking got me all screwed up with that. What else? They did something else. I think Trevor Lawrence's fumble when he was scrambling, that no one even touched him, and he just dropped the ball while he was running.
It just slipped out of his hand.
Yeah, like that doesn't happen
Thank
to
God
us normally.
was there.
By the way, that's like a Lamar Jackson fumble.
Right. And by the way, about Mollett, I know he got a lot of trash for that touchdown, but that was not on him. Geno Stone should have been there. He was kind of like Mollett was kind of left exposed because Geno Stone was not in the right spot, and you'll see that on the all 22. Yeah, it was a bad play, but it was on Geno Stone. He was in the wrong spot.
Yeah, and I think part of that might have been because Geno was kind of not practicing in that position all week with Marcus Williams being there. So he's got to kind of make sure he's taking those mental reps during the week that when he's not.
Well, he is getting them reps this week, at least limited reps.
For sure, he definitely will be because I know, Marcus is probably going to be very limited this week, if anything.
Yeah.
So he'll be taking most of those reps.
I really thought we did a good job stopping the run and stopping the screen, which is good to see with these 2 next games that we've got coming up. Kyle Hamilton shut that screen game down.
Dude, he's a beast.
I was worried when I found out he was playing, but I was also really happy because
you couldn't even tell that he was hurt.
Smart. I feel like he's not going to play if he feels like he's going to get hurt.
You couldn't even tell that he was hurt.
Right. And it worked out in our favor because there were a lot of times where if he wasn't in the game, it would have been like a 20, 30-yard gain, screen pass to Etienne or something like that, We also did a good job of shutting down Ingram. I didn't really see too much of him. Their receivers had an okay game. Calvin Ridley played better than I expected him to. He had that one nice catch and almost nice touchdown, but,
And then Zay Jones had a nice catch, I think, right?
Yeah, Zay Jones was annoying me, dude. He was getting on my nerves because he just tears us up for some reason, dude.
Yeah,
tears us up.
I'm just really worried about this next game. I know we're out of all NFL teams, we're probably the best to match up with them, but I just see San Francisco as the best team in the NFL right now.
Well, then why don't we move forward to our conclusions and preview moving forward to that game? Because I actually did want to say something about that.
Okay.
The Ravens feel different. After the bye, they feel different than they did before the bye. I don't think
they're finishing games.
I don't think they're going to lose again this year. At least until the playoffs. But maybe not there too. And I know it's easy to get into the, bias being a Ravens fan and get too hyped. But there's just something about this team. It's almost like the Patriots when they used to win all those Super Bowls, or the Chiefs now. They're always winning games, even if they shouldn't be. They're winning. It doesn't matter how they win it. They win it.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as we can just stop the bleeding with the injuries, I don't see us losing any of the next 3 games.
I definitely think we're going to slip up at least once.
If we do, I think it'll be against the Steelers.
No, I don't think that. They're terrible. They just went to their 3rd-string quarterback.
Yeah, well, I think what it's going to be is more so we start our starters, but then sub people out at the end of the game, and then maybe the Steelers come back and win because they're.
I think we're going to need that game to be the number 1 seed.
You do? Well, like I said, if we lose one, that's the one I think. But I think we're
going to lose this week to San Francisco. Just starting out, just seeing that San Francisco is getting healthy, and we're kind of a little bit banged up.
The O-line is the key to that game.
And our O-line has not shown me anything to trust them in this matchup.
I don't think it matters. I think
we're gonna have to run the ball.
Yeah, we will. And you know what? Gus Edwards, Lamar Jackson, and Justice Hill, and maybe some Melvin Gordon will do that. And we'll probably have some sort of a screen game against them too. Zay Flowers has been getting a lot of those at least in the last few weeks, a lot of those opportunities in the little screen, like quick out things. Same with Aguilar. We've been doing a lot of those little slant game things now with OBJ and Rashad as well. We've been getting Rashad open a lot. We were a little inaccurate the other night. I don't blame him for those drops entirely. It was like 50-50, but he's getting open, and that's reassuring. Lamar's trying to get that chemistry going, and I think they will.
Yeah, I do too. I think, like we talked about, I know Monken is going to be really, really, really getting into his playbook here, trying to bring some stuff out this week. I think there's a chance that he was just trying to be a little bit vanilla versus the Jaguars, thinking he could get away with it, and luckily we did. But I think he's going to have to really pull some tricks out this week offensively to put up some points against that defense, because God knows their offense is high-powered with Shanahan calling the plays, and they have Purdy. You can easily say the winner of this game, their quarterback's going to be the MVP.
I don't, because I think when we win, they'll still find a way to give it to someone else.
The only player that I think's deserving of the MVP that is not a quarterback is Tyreek Hill.
I agreed. Or Christian McCaffrey. I would argue McCaffrey's having just as good a year. If the 49ers didn't have McCaffrey, yeah, they'd probably have a lot of wins, but they wouldn't be the same team.
Yeah, right. Yep. This will be just like, to me, the Rams were, where they had a top running back. Christian McCaffrey is going to be that much better. So we're going to have to really make sure we don't let him break tackles. We got to wrap him up with the first guy that gets to the ball, and just know that they're going to find ways to get him the ball in different ways and try to get him matched up on linebackers when we do not want that matchup. Because if they've watched film, they've seen Patrick Queen and Roquan Smith on running backs matched up. That's been one of our weaknesses this year on defense.
I had one more final thought, and it just kind of pertains to other results this weekend with the Bengals and the Browns winning their games this week. And then the Colts also winning. And these are all teams we could potentially see in the playoffs. I would actually like those teams to make the playoffs, because I think that just muddles down the competition. I think we're that much better than those teams. And if Joe Flacco throws 3 interceptions against the Ravens, then we're winning. And Jake Browning will probably look more like what he looked like against the Steelers against our defense, than what he's looked like against the other teams, because we're just a better defense. And the Colts aren't beating us twice. We're not getting swept by the Colts. Like I said, the only team I really do not want to see is Buffalo, which unfortunately I think is inevitable if we want to go to the Super Bowl. So we really have to try and get a higher seed than them.
I'm not too scared about any of the AFC teams.
Why aren't you scared of Buffalo?
Because to me, we match up well against them. Our pass defense is very good, and I don't think they have a great run offense. They did do well with running the ball this past week, but
that's all they did this past week.
I'm saying, they didn't even throw for 100 yards. But overall, throughout the season, their run game is not something to be you can write home about. For them, it's all pass and let Josh Allen run the ball. And I think we'll be able to match up and pressure him and wrap him up and tackle him. So I don't think
that's true. I
don't think their defense is great with all the injuries they've had.
Yeah, I guess it just depends on how healthy we can stay.
You just got to think that this is the same Buffalo Bills team that was 6-6 2 weeks ago.
And we're the same Baltimore Ravens team that lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers. So you know what I mean? Like,
No. I just said 2 weeks ago. Steelers game was how many weeks ago?
Okay, you're right. Well, fair enough. I still think we have the best chance of winning the AFC if everything kind of remains as is, as far as like health of all of the other teams, including our own. I think we have the best chance. I think how we play against San Francisco will determine how competitive we can be in a potential Super Bowl. Now,
also, we didn't even mention we are the only team that in the AFC that has clinched the playoffs final.
Yes, and aren't we the only double-digit win team? Or is Miami?
No.
Miami is too.
Miami's got 10. They're 10-4, but they've lost 2 straight now, right?
No, they beat the Jets, but the Jets aren't a football team.
They did beat the Jets.
They got the annual. They got the.
Dude, I was so pissed off because Garrett Wilson had the worst game on my fantasy this.
I was playing in the loser bowl this year, which is kind of BS because I won like the last 6 games of my season, and just everyone else won enough to keep me out.
I snuck in,
and I like absolutely dominated the loser bowl too. Like I feel like if I was in the playoffs, real playoffs, well, I definitely would have beaten what my matchup would have been. I got like 60 more points than he did. This week. Thank you, Deebo Samuel. Thank you. What was it? Who else was it that I started? I started Deebo and I started. Oh yeah, Sam Laporta and David Njoku. So
I got Njoku on my team.
Yep. And I dropped the Cowboys defense and picked up the Falcons defense. And even though they lost, I knew they would absolutely ball out against that Panthers offense in that bad weather. And they did. They got me 8 points.
I somehow snuck into the playoffs as the lowest seed and then got a win in the first round. So I'm playing the number 1 seed this week.
Nice, dude. I hope you win.
Yeah, I hope Tyreek Hill is out because he has him.
What is your prize if you win overall?
I think it's like 600.
Oh, yay. You can donate that to the show.
Yeah, it'd be donated to me on the show.
Right. All right. Well, was there anything else you wanted to say before we get out of here?
Just happy holidays. Got Christmas coming up this week. Happy Hanukkah.
Let's hope for a injury-free Christmas over anything else. I mean, yes, the win is important, but more important is keeping everyone healthy at this point now that we're in the playoffs. And like everyone says, if we're going to lose a game, this is the one that will hurt us the least. But that being said, we'll see you guys later this week. I'm looking forward to doing a preview of the 49ers game. And, like, subscribe, and be ready. By the way, I think next week we're going to do our preview – or we're going to do our preview on the normal day this week. But then next week we're just going to do our
Postgame will be on Tuesday.
On a Tuesday again, like this week.
Yep. Well, all right. We'll see y'all. Have a good rest of the week until we see you next time.
All righty.